In the next two videos, we're going to start looking at the main causes of recent economic globalization. So I'm going to split it up into two different videos because there's quite a lot to get through. These are essentially the 5 reasons we're going to be looking at through the next few slides. I'm not going to talk about them all in detail now because we're going to look at them each individually, but it includes international division of labour. So basically one of the reasons for the emergence of globalization is that firms want to take advantage of international division of labour. New communication technology and transport, relaxation of government controls, that's when your reduction in tariffs and subsidies and quotas and things like that take place, and we'll talk about that as well. The deregulation of key markets and exactly what that means when we're looking at deregulation of the labour market, product markets, etc. And the fact that you can receive cost savings from specialising and then taking advantage of what we call economies of scale. So in this first video, we're going to look at these two, the benefits of international division of labour and the cost savings that can occur when we take advantage of economies of scale. So basically the aim of any business is to grow and their business is to maximise their profits. So businesses often expand across national borders to maximise their profits. It can also help to increase efficiency and reduce costs. And one of the main reasons why businesses want to become multinational and work in a globalised world is because they can increase their market share and therefore increase their profits. So one reason why there's been an increase in globalisation is that the firms know that there are benefits from international division of labour. So one key reason for the emergence of globalisation is that firms are fully aware of the benefits that they receive from international division of labour. So what is international division of labour? Well, basically it's breaking down the production process into specific stages, and each of those stages or tasks being done in different countries or in different areas. So productivity is improved by specialising, by breaking down the production process into specific parts or sectors, and then getting different countries to each perform each of those tasks. So countries focus in areas where they have comparative advantage, and that can include manufacturing, mainly being doing in low-wage countries, even though they may be owned by another transnational company, or they might be owned and operating in another company where their base is. So international division of labour, breaking down the production process into different stages and doing each of those stages in different countries. Even things that used to be developed in China or made in China are often switching to even lower wage countries now, like Bangladesh and Fiji and Vietnam, to take advantage of the lower wages in those countries. So the reasons for international division of labour is that there is large wage differentials, so firms can take advantage of lower labour costs. Often countries don't have minimum wages, or if they do, they're very low, so it could be 50 cents, $1, $2. And one of the things that's allowed for the international division of labour is this improvement in technology. So because things can be transported so much quicker, and because there can be so much more communication between firms now, that allows them to transfer goods at a much larger scale and a much quicker pace, and therefore they're able to take advantage of international division of labour but not have to spend too much in terms of production costs. Second thing, so first reason for globalisation is international division of labour. The second thing we're looking into this video is economies of scale. And basically what economies of scale is that businesses experience cheaper production costs per unit, so per unit of output, the higher the volume of output they produce. So what they can do is firms have what we call fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are the costs that remain the same regardless of how much you produce, whereas variable costs are costs that increase the more that you produce. So one example, for a pizza shop, if they've got their managers they've got to pay wages to, they'd have the rent for the building, electricity costs, a lot of those costs would be the same regardless of how many pizzas they sold. They would be your fixed costs. Your variable cost would be the cost that increase per pizza that you make. So for example, cheese and the packaging or the cardboard, the tomato sauce or the toppings, all of those would be variable costs because they cost more the more that you make. Basically what economies of scale allows businesses to do is spread their fixed costs over a greater volume of production. So the desire to achieve economies of scale helps firms to reduce their production costs, and the bigger that a company is, the more that it can spread those fixed costs over a larger volume of output, and therefore that provides the incentive, and this is the key link to globalization, is that if they can spread those fixed costs over more output, there's an incentive to sell to a much larger market base, so that they can lower their costs per unit of production. So businesses experience cheaper production costs per unit of output the higher the volume of output it produces, and it occurs because businesses can spread their fixed costs more evenly over a greater volume of output. Fixed costs remain the same regardless of how much you produce, and therefore with a larger volume of output, they can be spread over more production, and therefore they cost less per unit. It's common in manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and the reason why it's related to globalization, because you need to be able to make this link as well, is that the Australian market is too small by itself. So we're not selling to a large enough market. So by introducing foreign markets and being able to export globally, that allows us to take advantage of a bigger export market. Essentially, we're selling to more people, and therefore we're able to sell on a grander scale and take advantage of economy of scale. Here's an example. So for example, if we're looking at this as the output for a firm, so how many units they're producing of cars, so all the way from 1 car to 10 million cars. Each car company has got its fixed costs. So these fixed costs are the cost of setting up your production facilities, so your infrastructure or your machinery. And as you can see, those fixed costs stay the same regardless of how much we produce. Then you've got your variable costs for a car, which would be your engine, your steering wheel, your wheels, all the other parts of the car. They go up and they're 5,000 per car, for example. So what happens is the more that you produce, this is your fixed cost per unit, per unit of production. So if we're only selling one, it's costing us 50 million in fixed costs. Once we're selling 100, it's costing us 500,000. And once a car company can sell 100,000 cars, those fixed costs of 50 million are spread over 100,000 cars, so they're only $500 per car. The variable cost the same regardless. So as you can see here, the more that we produce, this is the total production cost. So it's got your fixed cost plus your variable cost. And as you can see, the more that we produce, the more we spread those fixed costs, and therefore the total cost per unit of production, once we get to these levels down here, is actually quite low because we've spread those fixed costs so thinly that it's only costing us $5,000 to make per car. Up here, it's costing us over 50 million for the car because you've got all your fixed costs, and that's why no car company is ever going to sell one car. Even if you're selling 100 cars, it's still costing you 505,000 per car. It's really only until you're selling 1,000 to 5,000 cars that this business is even going to be viable. If you can then sell to the whole world and you're selling tens of millions of cars, you spread your fixed cost more thinly and it's costing you less per unit of production. Economies of scale means that your fixed cost per unit go down the more that you sell, and therefore it costs you less per unit to sell and makes you more profitable. Last one, advances in technology, transport and ICT, we'll talk about in the next video.